Hello, genealogists. It's Craig with Just Genealogy again. Today I want to talk about organizing. Nobody's organized. Even people who think they're organized aren't. But that's okay. Basically, the goal of organization is to be sure that you can find something when you want to find it. That's all it's good for. It is a way to store your materials in a way that you can find it again. And I have to share with you that over the years, I've used a variety of different filing systems. I first started out using what I call an Untitled filing system. In other words, I had a file folder for every surname in my Untitled, and based on the number of the Untitled, in other words, I would be 1, my father would be 2, my mother would be 3, and then it would go on. And the female lines would be the uneven lines, and the male lines would be the even lines. So that would mean that everything that related to my Scott family would be in folder number 2. And everything that related to my mother's Roberts family would be in folder number 3. And then folder number 4 wouldn't exist because that would be the Scott family, number 2. But number 5 would be my Nyland's family. Number 6 would not exist because that would be my Roberts family. But number 7 would be my Bealey family. And it would go on and on and on. And basically, when you're just starting out, that's not a bad system to have because you don't have that much stuff yet. But it can be confusing because, for example, my Scott folder got to be so huge I couldn't find anything. So then inside my Scott folder, there would be 1, 2, 4, 8, 16, 32. And that really didn't work either. But in the beginning, I guess it was fine. Now, one of the problems we have with filing systems is that you may have a record that has more than one name on it. So how do you file it? Are you going to photocopy it 10 times because there are 10 names on it and put one in each folder? I'm not sure that that really works. But before I talk about that, I want to talk about something else. I'm sorry, my eyes are burning. And that's the use of a modified Henry system. I used to be a surname genealogist. I'd run the Scott One Name Study for about 15 years. Have 100,000 records relating to Scots, that kind of stuff. So what I have is five drawer file cabinets and boxes full of Scott material. And it is organized. But how did I organize it? So I assigned a Henry number to every individual, and I assigned a family number to every individual. And then when I would merge two families together, I would just fix the Henry number, slide it in where it belonged, and then change the family number. And I wouldn't reuse the family number. So it would be possible to merge two families together easily based on the family number. It might require some modification, but at least everything that related to that family was easy to find. That did require a database of all the names in those five drawer file cabinets so that I would know what family number, aka what file number, I should pull if somebody had a connection. So recently, someone asked me about a marriage between a Scott and a Muncie Skidmore. So I was able, in just a few, literally seconds, to determine what family was Muncie Skidmore in, and which Scott did he marry, and what was the file number for that family. And I think I actually still have it laying around here. So here is a file, and you can barely see it, but it's family number 830. So in these 5-drawer file cabinets, I have files that look just like this, and in family 830 is all the correspondence that I've ever had on this family, the letters, the research, all the pieces. Actually, there's not very much, but it's all in one place. So that works very well. I could easily find something very quickly as long as my database wasn't corrupted. It seems that somewhere along the line, I lost half my database. Not sure what happened. So anyway, what I'm doing now in my infinite spare time, as which you can tell I have plenty, but every time I pull one of these files, I scan it, create a file folder made up of this family number so that I now have all the data so I can travel with it, because I'm not going to travel with five drawer file cabinets. But this family 830 still exists as a family. And if I find additional information that relates to this family, of which Muncie Skidmore and the Scott that he married is just a piece, then I'll be able to integrate it. And my process normally would be to integrate it to the number that had the most people in it. So there would be fewer things to change. So it does, the number is arbitrary. So those are two different filing systems. One is Untitled, and one is a file folder with a family number. It doesn't matter whether this family number is a single surname like mine are, or whether it's your family. But then you have the same problem, because what happens if there are two different, for example, Scott families that do not connect to each other, at least not yet, that live in the same county, are found in the same records? Do I put that information in each file folder? Well, that isn't going to work. That's untenable too. So what I found that what I would do is I would, in the file folder, put a reference where a reference would be assigned a specific number, and that specific number was unique to that reference. And so I would know that in that reference I would look for it. Now that actually went in the database, because in my database are actually all the records of these families, but the file folder is the documentation that supports the records. So this got me thinking that I still was doing things wrong from the perspective of my own family. So what I decided to do is, using a database, I decided the easiest thing to do would be to assign a unique number to a document, and then use that unique number, properly source cited somewhere, so I didn't have to constantly copy the source citation. And then in my database of my family genealogy, my genealogy software, it would link to all the people that were in that information. So if I had 3 family names on something, that information in regards to that document would be in those 3 family names. So the number, and it would end up in a file folder with the number. And these file folders would be sequential, so they could constantly grow. So you wouldn't have to worry about, where do I fit this in? It always fits in at the end. Now, I've actually been to a library. I think it was the David Library, the old David Library, before it moved to Philadelphia when I was at Washington's Crossing, that their library system was actually based on acquisition number, and they were serial. So a new book would come in the library, it would go at the end of the file. That's the only library I know that did things like that, but recognize each one of those things conceptually is a resource, and it's like a filing system. It's not Dewey Decimal. So what I have is all these records. They have a sequential number, and the database, the genealogy software, has that sequential number in it. So if I have to refer to the original record, or the scan of the original record, or the photocopy of the original record, that's where I'm going to go. So my recommendation to you is to start early, because it's very difficult to do this once you've got a ton of paper. But start doing it so that, and you don't necessarily have to put them in file folders. You can just, Let me see if I can find it real quick. I probably can't, but I have one of those serial stampers. Sometimes they're dates, sometimes they're serial numbers. You can just stamp the record with red ink or something so you can clearly see what the document number is. And it's just a serial number that advances every time you have a new document. And then you can file them that way, and you can fit them in file folders. So 1 to 100 is in this folder, 101 to 200 is in this folder, or 199, 200 to 299 is in that folder. And then you can keep track of it that way. And that, using a serial number, is so much easier than having to worry about filing something because you have some unique number associated with that reference. And this should make it easy if your database stays, doesn't get corrupted. It should be easy for you to locate a document very quickly. Now, some documents I put inside document protectors and some I don't. And some of those go in notebooks. So if they go in notebooks, they have a different kind of serial number, but it's still a serial number. So basically I have things that aren't necessarily special that are in file folders, and there's a serial number associated with those. And then things that are really special to me, I have in notebooks, and those are that way. Now, the goal is to scan all those things, keep the serial numbers, and that's the file folder that they're in. And then they'll be easily found on a terabyte drive somewhere, so long as I don't lose the terabyte drive. So that's my eventual plan. That's the direction I'm heading. And trust me, I'm 40 years behind in this. I don't want you to be 40 years behind in this. I want you to, in fact, get organized as quickly as you can so that you won't waste time looking for things, and so you won't waste time because you've lost something and don't know where it is. So that requires that you have a database. I use FileMaker Pro, but you don't have to use FileMaker Pro. You can use Access. Any SQL database will do it for you. I don't know which ones are even available out there. I've been a FileMaker Pro guy since the beginning of time, since it was version 2, and they're up to version 19 or something now. So I've been using it for 30, 40 years. So that's, and I use it all the time, so I don't have a learning curve associated with it. So I have a database that deals with what my references are. Those database codes are in my genealogy software so that I can refer to them if I need to look at the original record, if there seems to be a conflict or a problem, and I can take it from there. You may choose to start out with the Untitled method, and you may change later on as things get unwieldy, but it's important. The most important concepts that you have to be aware of in your filing system, that it has to be easy. You actually have to want to use it, and you have to actually want to maintain it, because if you don't, it'll all go to hell in a handbasket in no time at all. So you have to fix it so that you can easily get to it. You can easily find the material that's in it. You can easily retrieve the material, but more importantly, you can easily file the material back away when the time comes. You can do this in a box. You can do this in a banker's box, but you have to start. And the sooner you start, the better off you will be. So this has been Craig with Just Genealogy, talking about organizing. I'll probably talk about organizing again, because I know I just touched the surface. So if you have questions about organizing, come back to me, ask me. I'll be happy to help. Do anything I can, because I'm converting people just doing genealogy into genealogists day by day. Thank you so much.